Hi guys, welcome back to the channel Tech Concepts with me. This is our last part of the Creating Tables series, and after this, we'll be moving on to SQL queries. Before I go ahead, I want to request that you subscribe to the channel. If you go to the bottom right of your viewport of the screen, you are going to see a red watermark. You take your mouse and hover around that watermark. Subscribe button will appear. Please hit the subscribe button as well as hit the notification icon so that you can be made aware when new videos are uploaded. So in our last video, we talked about as well as demonstrated how to implement depicted one-to-many relationships in the PostgreSQL environment. Now, we went on to demonstrate how to import data from created comma-separated value files. Now, this import function is useful where a person already has structured data in an external file, which they hope or would love to import into the PostgreSQL database. Now, in this video, we want to look at another very useful way of generating and importing data into our PostgreSQL environment. As such, this topic is titled Importing Data into the PostgreSQL environment from data generating sites. Now, specifically, we're going to be importing data from a data generating site called Mockaroo. And this is the URL or Uniform Resource Locator to the website where we're going to be generating our data. Now, Mockaroo is a popular online, you know, you can call it a tool, for generating realistic test data for various applications. So essentially, from this site, from Mockaroo, you can create customizable data where you have flexibility to determine the attributes and formats that your data sets will consist of. So many times people are trying to insert data into their database and they, may resort to a CSV file, which they may have to create on their own. With Mockaroo, you know, you have the opportunity to, at a single instance, generate as many as 1,000 rows of data, tuples or records of data, which can help your, practice exercises. Because where you have 1,000 rows of data, there's so many things you can do in terms of querying that data or that data set. So in this video, we'll focus on demonstrating this process of, generating data and inserting that data into a PostgreSQL environment. I should add, though, that in order to partake in this demonstration or this exercise, you also have to, have an integrated development environment installed in your system. In our instance, we're going to be using Visual Studio Code, but there are other options which you can resort to. For instance, Atom. Atom is a free and open source IDE. You can just go to their website and download it. Also, Sublime is also a possible option which you can resort to. So you decide what IDE you would like to use. Now, the IDE is important for this exercise because it's the platform from which PostgreSQL will execute the command to insert, the data that is generated from Mockaroo. Now, once we're done with our task for this video, which is the main task for this video, then we are going to talk about a practice assignment. Um, the practice assignment will involve this, you know, entity relationship model, which, you know, viewers are expected to implement. So think about all of the practice sessions where we have done, from the beginning, and, decide if you will be able to implement this entity relationship model in the PostgreSQL environment. Now, the exercise is geared towards helping you to build your confidence, in implementing relational model depictions on your own. Now, not to worry. If you get stuck, you can look at, you know, one of the links in the description section of this video. Um, so one of the links will take you to a Word document, which provides the implementation codes that you can type into PostgreSQL. If you do get stuck and are unable to implement this entity relationship model on your own, I will advise, though, that you attempt to complete the exercise on your own. Now, to add on, in the description section of this video, there are links to all the CSV data sets. So there's going to be a link to a Google Drive, and in that Google Drive, you're going to see a zip folder containing all the CSV files which you can use to populate these tables. It's important you attempt this exercise because in our next video, which is specifically going to be focused on querying data, we're going to be using this um, entity relationship model, or the implemented version of this entity relationship model. So it's a good idea for you to have completed the exercise that's creating these tables, all four tables, defining the relationships between them, as well as populating the tables with the CSV files. Okay, so we're going to get right into our main exercise for today. So I am going to navigate to the Mockaroo site. I'm going to navigate to the Mockaroo site. Uh, so once in the Mockaroo, on the home page of Mockaroo, you will see that close to the top, we have a number of rows containing various attributes. Okay. Now, Mockaroo provides a flexible, interface such that you are able to play around with these attributes. So I can decide to delete an attribute. I can decide to add an attribute, okay, and change the data type as well, right? It's all up to you. For demonstration's sake, we're going to leave, our attributes just the way they are, in this example. To, make sure we're trying not to overstretch, the length of this video. So we're going to leave it the way it is. So here are the attributes which our table will consist of. Table which we want to generate, data for. Now, here you have rows, a label called rows. Now, with this label, you have the opportunity to generate as much as 1,000 rows, which is what we have indicated. Now, if you want more rows than these, 1,000 rows, you will have to subscribe to their service. Okay, but I believe for practice sake, querying data and learning all the SQL query commands, 1,000 rows will suffice. So I think that's enough. Now, next to rows is the format label, and you have various formats here. You have the CSV, which we had talked about, comma separated value. You have the JSON or JavaScript object notation. You have the structured query language, Firebase. You have Excel. You have the extensible markup language. You have these different options. Here we're going to select SQL as the format which we want to use. Our table name is going to be called contract employees. So just call it contract EMP. Now we're going to look at the preview of our contract EMP. So let's look at the preview. Okay, so this is what our contract EMP looks like. First of all, you have the command which enables table creation, and then you have the insert commands which enable insertion of these, rows of data into that table. Okay, so everything is fine. We're still going to make some changes, but let's leave it like this for now. Now we're going to generate our data. Once we have generated our data, it's important that you already have your IDE or integrated development environment downloaded, because this is how we're going to open up the file that's downloaded from Mockaroo. And we may need to make some changes, which we're going to do in this case. So let's begin by generating our data. So I'm going to click on the generate data button. Okay, so it tells us that contract emp.sql has been downloaded. So I'm going to navigate to that file. So that's it, contract underscore emp, contract employee. I'm going to open that up. It's going to, by default, open up with the Visual Studio Code. Okay, so I'm going to open that up, double click, and here we see we have our contract employee table. Now we're going to make a few changes. All right, in the definition of our attributes, as opposed to integer for our ID, we are going to use a data type which we call big serial. And big serial is a data type that enables auto incrementation, okay, of the numbering of rows, all right? So as opposed to you having to enter an ID for each of your rows of data or instances of employees or contract employees. Here, we're going to have the big serial data type that automatically or auto generates, those numbers for us. So we don't have to think too much about including a particular ID because it will be auto generated once we use the big serial. Now, I want us to also specify that ID is going to be our primary key. Okay, so we're going to specify that. And then finally, we're going to say not null, which means we do not want that field to be null. Okay, so for our first name, we're also going to add not null. We're just going to copy that, paste it for the rest of our attributes. Not null, the last name as well, and not null for our email. Okay. Well, not everyone has an email, but we can make that compulsory as well. So that's fine. Let's just leave it that way. Then we're going to save our file. Just save that. Once we have saved it, we're going to leave this file just the way it is. And we're going to navigate to our command prompt. So I'm going to say CMD. And I'm going to open up the command prompt. Now, we're going to log into our, our PostgreSQL environment. So I'm going to say PSQL user Postgres Postgres password 1234. Okay. Once logged in, we're going to do something first. I need to show you something. So I'm going to use the command backslash question mark. Remember, we talked about this command when we talked about, some of the commands you need to become familiar with when working within the PSQL environment. And this is a help function for PSQL commands. When you do backslash and the question mark and hit the return key, look at what we have here. So if you scroll down to inputs, outputs, all right, you will see this command, which is called, where's our input, output? Input, output, all right? You see this command, which is called, backslash I and then file. And what that does is it executes commands from a file, which is what we're trying to do here. We're trying to execute a command from our Visual Studio Code, okay, which is what is pasted in the Visual Studio Code, our SQL code, which is pasted in the Visual Studio Code. So we're going to use that backslash I and then define the file path for our contract employees. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom of this, and that's finished. Okay, so we're just going to, you know, type here backslash I, and then we're going to define the path where we have our contract employee. Okay, so right click and go to properties. And next to location, you can see that this is the file path we have for our contract employee. So we're next to the backslash I command, we're going to paste that, but also we're going to make a few changes. So the way PSQL is able to read these files is with a forward slash. So we're not going to use the backslashes here. If we use the backslash, we're going to get an output that reads permission denied, and we don't want that. So I'm going to change these to forward slashes. Okay, change that to a forward slash as well, and change that to a forward slash. But also we're going to take the name of our file. Remember what the name of our file is? Contract employee. And we're going to paste that here. But also we're going to end with .sql. All right. So backslash I, the file path, but our file path must be changed or modified such that we change the backslashes to forward slashes. And then you put the name of your file .sql. And once I press the return key, you will see that we have all these inserts up to 1,000 rows. Now we can check it, and I think it's a good idea that we do that. See if we have up to 1,000 rows entered into our database. So here I'm going to say select star, which means all. Select all from contract M, I believe. And once I use the semicolon to end it, and I press the return key, you can see that our table has been populated. Now we're going to scroll to the bottom just so that we can see that we have up to 1,000, rows of data. You will also note that with our ID column, it's been auto incremented because we used the big serial data type. It's auto incremented. We don't have to worry about that. And if we were entering a new record, say the 1,001st person, we will not need to add the ID attributes. We will just start with first name because automatically it's going to be added based on the big serial, data type that we have used. So let's get to 1,000. As you can see, we have 1,000 records entered. That's the last one there. So this is, the main exercise we had for this video. I want to, however, request that we carry out, the exercise that we're supposed to carry out so that in the next video, we can just begin with queries. All right. So you're expected to implement this entity relationship model in your PostgreSQL database. As I have indicated, if you get stuck, there's a Word document that will be, placed in the, Google Drive, um, to which the link has been specified in the description section of this video. So if you get stuck, you can use that, to help you finish up the exercise. Also, it's a link to, a Google Drive where you have a zip folder that contains all the CSV files for these tables to help you populate the tables. All right, so that being said, we're going to stop this video here. Again, I want to request that you subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.